of a BBI. Who is funding BBI here on Cheruiyot?
Yes,
the meetings in Naivasha, the meetings in Mombasa, the meetings, of course, in Buhungu Stadium, who pays for the venue?
Dibal, first of all, allow me to clarify something with Otiende and on behalf of the people of Rarieda. You know, Otiende has this habit of getting worked up on something, but blaming something totally different on the reason why he's worked up. I think he's worked up because of the things I said, but not what I said about Rarieda people. I said if two of their most prominent sons, you and Tuju,
could we just now? No. I think we're going off the rails. No. I won't allow the debate about Rarieda and all that jazz. Tuju is not here actually to also, you know,
there was no bad intention on the people of Rarieda. Anyway, Dibal, this is what I want. This is what I want to answer you. About 2 or 3 Saturdays ago, I think the day that they were going to Kisii for the BBI meeting, I was at Wilson Airport to take my flight to Kisumu for my weekend activities. And there at Wilson were 3 fixed-wing planes that were taking members of parliament to Suneka airstrip, you know, in Kisii. Most of these members are my friends, they're my colleagues, they're people that I talk to. So we engaged and said, oh, we are headed to Kisii for BBI, of course, the tiff and turn of politics, and we left it at that. When I met them later, a good number of them later on in the week, we had a discussion, what were the proposals, what happened, and what entirely happened. It is them who revealed to me this issue that of being paid 100,000 shillings. I had the same reports about Kakamega. I haven't met anyone who went to Mombasa to have an opportunity to ask them. But even leave alone the issue of members of parliament. You send a message right now, Dibal, and ask the delegates who attended the Kisii meeting, for example, whether they were paid to attend or not. They'll give you the answer.
Paid by who?
Why do you just ask a simple question? Were you paid and by who? Because my word, you don't want to trust it. Finally, even on the issue, if you see how that function is arranged, from the tent, that huge, it's called a dome, you know, you think it just found its way there. There are resources that are being spent. You'll be a fool. And the only man in Jerusalem, as I put it, to imagine that somebody gave money out of their pocket to put up such a tent. That tent costs about 8 to 10 million shillings. It's not small money. Therefore, there is a source of funding for these BBI meetings. It is for you and you to help us find out who is funding. That's my entire point.
Right. Who's funding?
In concluding, there's a question that, just to wrap up my thoughts, because I see our time is almost coming to an end. Which way for this BBI exercise? First of all, Otiende, if you're honest and you want to have a discussion about how do we make Kenya better, and I said, having taken time to introspectively reflect and say, what is it that we can do as a country, do for Kenya during this whole exercise, despite all the hypocrisy about what is happening in BBI. When you go to meetings, you stifle the views of those you don't agree with. Governors are told it is either BBI or EACC. That's why you're seeing them trooping to these BBI rallies, because it's one way or the other. There's something that Kenya can get out of this. Number one, Otiende, we must draft a referendum law, because the truth of the matter is that even as ODM, in their usual confusion, continue to insist that we must have a referendum before June, we do not have a law to guide the process, the referendum process. Many countries do their referendums differently. It's either a yes/no question or a multi-layered questionnaire. We have to define it in law which way for Kenya. I would propose that we do a multi-choice referendum for us, because there are things that we agree on, all of us. Things like strengthening agriculture, devolution, funding to the judiciary. Those are popular things which most Kenyans agree on. We may not agree on the structure of government, whether parliamentary or presidential or hybrid. Those are the things that you give it to Kenyans for them to choose, and whoever carries the day gets to have their chance. That you can only achieve if you have a referendum law that provides for the opportunity of a multi-choice question. And the final thing, Dibal, what is it that makes us fight during elections? Never forget that all these members of parliament that sit here, despite the fact that they may never agree on who won the presidency, agree that they were duly elected at the constituency level. How comes in all these BBI meetings, there is very little mention of IEBC? Yet it is the biggest bone of contention in how we run our electoral process. Don't you think it is time to reflect and say, what is it that you think you people in ODM that are constantly complaining about how presidential elections have been conducted, Give us your proposal about what you want.
Let's leave it at that. Let's hear from Dr. Iseli. Who is funding BBI? And is there a budget for it?
I think I come back to what Halwale said about honesty. I think you heard by Halwale's admission, and I think many Kenyans must have recognized that by now, that the political class have a shortage of honesty, a serious deficit of honesty. And so we need to look at it that way when we are looking at the BBI, who is funding what. Because as I mentioned earlier, if the state is funding the BBI meetings, who is funding the Naivasha meetings? I didn't get an answer.
How many have they been?
One so far, very big, as you said, the Palace School.
To sleep in a hotel in Naivasha, the Palace 10,000 shillings.
Yeah, 470 people. Anyway, that's said and done. But you see when
who's funding? That's the probing question.
When I mention it, you see how touchy it is. With Aaron's reaction.
Because you're calling it meetings as if they've been
well, okay, then sleepovers, if not meetings. But it's amusing that those who opposed the Constitution 2010 are now reluctant to change it. Yet an opportunity to change it has come.
And those who support it want to
that's
change.
Why I keep on saying that Jubilee has failed Kenyans, especially now with the internecine fight. Until they have forgotten about good governance. They are so busy fighting internally. And this way, we are pretending to be fighting corruption, yet deeply promoting crony capitalism and tribalism. The BBI is just a valve that has been placed there to release Kenyans' tension, so that Kenyans can believe they are actually now participating in a discourse to change the country. But really, I don't think Jubilee has got any intention to change anything.
Thank you.
And my advice to Kenyans, as I've always told them, keep very far from Jubilee. Not just now, not just in 2022, but forever. They should just keep a big distance. Because you see, like, as Maraga complains about not having enough money in the judiciary, but if you read the Business Daily, they're raising more money in fines. What does that tell you? That crime has gone up and people are being fined more? So I think Maraga should concentrate on raising more fines than crying for the treasury to give him more money.
All right. Dr. Molo.
You know, I waited for my friend Aaron Cheruiyot to give us this evidence of money being paid. And all he has said is that he saw 3 choppers at Wilson. The most number of people a chopper can take is 4.
I said
if you saw 3, that makes about 12.
He said fixed wing. Fixed wing in the Cessnas.
But how many?
By his admission.
Yes, so here. Anyway, now the thing about this is, I suspect that Aaron and his Tanga group are so used to being paid for any meeting they go to that they don't believe anybody else can use their own money to go to any meeting. I want to challenge you, Aaron, and I want you to go and look for all your sources. The way I previously challenged you about the results Jacob keeps talking about, which you never tabled. You bring that evidence that even me, forget about, you may not want to mention any of your friends, me, that have received even a single shilling for attending those meetings, then we will start respecting what you say. But when you don't back up what you say, then you must allow people not to believe you. Now, secondly, I refrain from the debate that Jacob invites me to go into for now, the question of the regional governments. One, because it is true it's been proposed in at least 2 of the places. I think it was proposed in Mombasa and also in Kisii. But the discussion is going on. The truth is, even the harmonized draft constitution had regional governments when we were in the committee of experts. But when you go there, there's a lot more that you must discuss. What is the form of government you're talking about?
Right.
Will you have a regional assembly?
Shall we reserve that particular debate about the regional governments for another forum? Let's talk about the funding. Lastly, this is where we are.
Lastly, about the document. There are 2 things that need to come out here. There is no way we are going to have any more than 1 document, the way Dr. Boni Halwale tries to encourage. The BBI process, by whichever formation, must result in 1 document only. Now, we should all input into that. And when it comes, there will be no question of having multiple referendum questions. And Aaron, we do not need, it is good to have a referendum law, but it is not a mandatory requirement to have it before we go to referendum. We've had 2 referenda without that law. What's the big deal? The referendum will just be 1 question.
Thank you.
Do you support this document or you don't? And it's either yes or
we'll
no.
Leave it at that.
That's all.
Kimani Watangi.
Dibala, I think on that question of, you said you want us to reserve the discussion on the regional governments for another time.
For the next forum.
Yeah, okay, fine. We'll do that. But you already have economic blocks. I think, as you were saying, you can have chairmen of those economic blocks, and they'll deal, you know, their governors. But anyway, on the funding, my view is that those sponsored or funded meetings, wherever they are, whether in Naivasha, whether they're in any other place, I don't think they're helpful to the cause of this country, in my view. And it is important that whoever is either funding any of them, and some of us, as they say in the animal farm, some of us are more equal than others. I saw in one of the interviews here, Raila admitting that he is worth 2 billion, so maybe he could sponsor a few, and maybe, of course, any other politician who has got
not rich,
got money.
Just a poor man wants to.
Well, I mean, there are more richer men, of course, than Raila. That's the truth. So we also have to.
Thank you.
I mean, it depends on who is leading. What I was saying, Dibala, on my point on how do we move forward, and I've said it clearly, especially as Jubilee, we have to agree. Are we just going to tolerate each other until the end? Are we agreeing that there's going to be a divorce, but you know, a stay in until some time? Those decisions we have to make, and then we're able to move forward. Lastly, is I believe that for this country we have to focus entirely on service delivery. I repeat this many times as a member of Jubilee Party, who was sworn in 2013 and 2017. We've made promises to the people of this country. I believe the way forward for us is to make sure that we live up to the promises we made, so that Eseli can sing and make different statements that he repeats every day, because he says keep away from Jubilee, but he never tells people leave Jubilee, go to Fort Kenya. Yet he almost deserted from Fort Kenya. So I believe.
Thank you. The bell has tolled.
That the handshake gains, Dibal, for the peace of this country are real. That's a statement of fact.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Jacob Medio.
Just very
on the funding.
No, I think I already addressed myself to that.
Yes.
I don't wish to repeat myself. But I wanted to invite Bonnie away from this conversation to read Article 188 of the Constitution. Because besides what Otiende said, that in Kisii, people talked about regional government, then in Mombasa, I also saw Paranya, who is his governor, saying we are in Western, they also want it. But read Article 188, because these cultural issues, you can't keep saying you want Luhya nation and not want a lawful structure that makes you a nation. Because part of the problems in Africa, is the way we have these arbitrary boundaries. And you know, out from Berlin Conference, 1884, what we have here is a scenario where we want to reorganize society. Some of these counties, you see, particularly in the rural areas of marginalized areas, the problem why the governor of Wajir keeps running away from bullets is because the county is 1.5 clans. So the smaller one is feeling marginalized. Why can't we just allow ourselves to debate these issues, and whichever way they come, like Wamatangi says, we come with a document that we are all happy with. And I agree with Aaron that we may not have a top-down answer to all these things, but let us chew them so that we can move forward as a country.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Right, quite an engaging, delectable discussion we've had. And of course, we want to wind up with Boni Khalwale, right? Just very briefly. Yeah?
Yes, here comes Mr. Afterthought. I think the question as to who is funding these processes is neither here or there. In fact, to me, it is superfluous. There is no political function that you can hold without a budget. In fact, we have got international NGOs that have been supporting political parties. The only bad thing is that nobody's being clear as to where the money is coming from. Amolo, so that you don't mislead our children, we have already had the best international practice to learn from and national practice. In 1787, Americans went to Philadelphia and had a constitutional convention. In 2005, Kenya went to Bomas, had such a thing. So the BBI, going forward, should take charge, go back to the driving seat, produce enough copies of what was presented at Bomas, let Kenyans read, and then invite them to regional or county conventions where members of the public will be given an opportunity to give their views. Thank you very much.